The biggest reminder from today's episode is that if you are not given a seat at the table, then make your own. Tasha McCaskiel, who is the founder of Black Girls in Media, a networking organization that is dedicated to providing resources and support to women of color within the media industry, joins us on the show today for such a really fun and just refreshing conversation. Tasha walks us through how she started Black Girls in Media and how she's been able to build a successful and engaged community, and how you can create your own space as a business owner. I absolutely loved this conversation. It was just so refreshing, and I know you're going to love it just as much as I did. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, Tasha. How are we doing today?
We are good. How are you doing?
Good. So excited to have you come on the show because I feel like what you have done, what you have created, Black Girls in Media is just so important and so needed. And so I'm so excited for our audience to get to know you, your story, how you've built your successful businesses, and just overall the impact you're making. So thank you for being here.
Yes. No, thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And so the first thing that comes to mind to me, right, is I have been, did you watch Beyonce, her Super Bowl performance? I mean, the Beyonce Bowl? Of course, right? I didn't watch the game. I just tuned in straight to the show. But the reminder came up to me because we all obviously know, with her coming out with her country album, and then she didn't get it nominated for a single CMA award. And it just, after that performance, was just such a clear reminder to me, like, if you are not given a seat at the table, make your own. And I feel like your story is such a huge reflection of that similarly in your journey. And so walk us through a little bit of essentially how you started Black Girls in Media, but also where was that like defining moment where you were like, enough, like I'm going to build something for myself and others?
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I created it really to help myself.
Yeah.
As selfish as that sounds, but no, really, I was just like fresh out of grad school, and I was, expecting to have a full-time job immediately after I graduated, and that just wasn't the case. I had to come back home to North Carolina, working at like an eyeglass place, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how do I even get started? So I just started a group chat with like some girls that I maybe like interned with or worked an event with. And it really just grew from there. And I really was in the chat like, hey guys, like, are y'all getting hired? Do you have any contacts? And so I always like to say like something that I started to help myself just ended up helping countless others. And so it was super organic, and that's lovely to experience. So, but I will say that I guess that was just my own way of creating my own seat at the table, was sitting down with others to help me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what I love about that so much is that, like you said, that was selfishly for me, and there's no shame in that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
When you trying to get a job, you got to do what you got to do. So
hello. Yes.
Absolutely. But I like that you were just like, hey, like, I'm just going to really lean into my connections and community and like, let's see what comes up. But as you have been building this community, as you have built, like where it's like thousands of Black women, how did it evolve into that? As you just started like, hey, I was just trying to find something for myself. And you started with a group chat. How did that evolve to where you found other people, Black women especially, that are also not having the same opportunities?
So, once I added a lot of colleagues into the chat, it really just took a life of its own. And I love to say also, like, I really just learned as I went along, which is, probably most of the people you have on here say, like, when you're starting a business, you don't even know, you just, one brick at a time. So that was really the case. So of course we were in the group chat talking every day, dropping resources. And so, the ladies wanted to, of course, everyone lived all over, but, everybody was like, oh my gosh, let's get up. Like, I would love to meet you all. So then that's when I'm like, okay, let's do it. So within the first year, like 2018, I started doing like networking brunches in different like major areas. So we did LA, we did like the DMV, we did New York, where else? Of course, Charlotte, because that's where I'm from. So yeah, that was just the place where we could get together, network, and see each other in person. And then from there, just learning the audience, learning more of what the community wanted is how I grew it. Whether that was, working with companies, how I do now with hiring and like job openings, sharing that within the group, and, countless other resources, just whatever I can do to get the community members help and bring them value. That's really what I did, just like step by step, day by day.
Yes, I love that though. Step by step, day
Yes.
by day, right? Like I
Yeah.
think sometimes when we see the success of others, it's
Mm-hmm.
really, we forget that every single day they had to pour into it. Every single day
Oh,
they
yeah.
had to put one foot in front of the other. And what
Mm-hmm.
started as a small group chat has completely evolved into something amazing. And that's just like making an impact for
Yes.
so many Black women everywhere. And
Yeah.
so even a question that I want to add to that as like somebody who works in media,
Mm-hmm.
I think for small business owners, number one, that
Mm-hmm.
we think that visibility, especially for our businesses, is only through social media. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as somebody who's working in media, where do
Mm-hmm.
you think that you see small business owners are like slacking, like where we're not
Mm.
essentially really leveraging other sources that could be very beneficial for us in our business?
I would definitely say email.
Mm.
And I feel like I've grown our email list mainly from social media, but also I leverage our email list through like our events. So anytime we have an event, I make sure I gather that data. And really, that's something that I learned just in general, like how much data is so important. So whether it's a virtual or in-person event, make sure you have that spreadsheet of attendees, upload that into your email list because they want to stay updated anyway most of the time. And so, yeah, even when I'm not posting on social media, we always have like a growing email list where we send weekly, check-ins and new products, new events, and things like that. So I think business owners should definitely make sure they have that in 2025 because,
Mm-hmm.
we never know what, as we can see, we don't know what social media platforms will stay and go.
Mm-hmm. No, I think I
Mhm.
love that you brought that up. Email marketing. That is something that is
Yeah.
on the forefront for me as well this year for
Yeah.
my business, because even
Yeah.
I just recently hired an OBM and she is just currently launching her own business. So
Okay.
I'm like coaching her, just sharing things that I messed
Mhm.
up on. I'm like, don't make the same
Yeah.
mistakes. And so
Right.
the first
Right.
thing I said to her was, your email list. Like if I
Yeah.
could go back and start over, that is the first thing I would have done, is
Mhm.
truly your email list. Because even when I
Yeah.
launched my storytelling for creatives course last month, like the beta round, it was my email that found me all of the seats to fill up my beta round. And I was like, that is just where, okay, the data, right? The data, I'm like, okay, that's where the money is for me, is email. And so really emphasizing that more, leaning more into the email marketing and really nurturing that audience, my community, so that hopefully it'll give me a lot more of the results that I'm looking for. And this question kind of too just popped into my head. Sorry, because I like feel like I'm like pivoting back and forth, but like it just popped in my head and I'm so interested,
Mhm.
because obviously Black girls in media, do you feel just what are you seeing right now in the trends of just media in general? And how can business owners essentially kind of hop onto that?
So what I see for, of course, media, as we know, is broad.
Yep.
Because what is your experience in media?
None.
Well, you're in media podcasting.
Podcasting.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
So,
like, nothing.
yes, no, I think the opportunities in media, I know we see a lot of people are concerned because, like you have physical magazines that aren't performing as well as they used
Mm,
to, and a lot of media jobs, especially during the pandemic, a lot of in-person like productions weren't happening, so we saw the strike and things like that impact media careers.
mhm,
But I think that there's still a lot of opportunity, like, podcasting. A lot of people have knowledge to share and sharing their stories. I know I listen to podcasts every single day. So there's a lot of opportunity in that. Even with jobs, I think that, especially like with creator and like, what is it, UGC content, like
mm,
people, user generated content. Yeah. Every day I'm on social media and I see people, reviewing a business or, just anything. So I think that there's just so many opportunities still in media, just depending on what route you want to go in.
I know. I just realized too, where I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I don't do anything. And I'm like, oh yeah, podcasting. Like in my
Yeah.
mind, that's not media. Like,
Really?
like I
Yeah.
instinctively did not think that this is media. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, just
Yeah.
I'm podcasting. But that
Yeah.
is true. That's media. And I think too, because I
Mhm.
also speak and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that is also a form of media. And
Media.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so for business, like instinctively, I just did naturally lean that way. And so it's like even
Right.
like for business owners, like some of us are naturally already doing those things. And
Mhm.
so a lot of us are in media, but I think for us, we just need to be more strategic with getting those opportunities because I have started to see a lot of business owners who have built these successful brands that is
Mhm.
leading into a lot more incredible PR opportunities that
Yeah.
has really taken their business like to the next level, being featured in
Mhm.
certain areas. And
Right.
so if business owners like myself, right, we're trying to
Mhm.
get more out there, what is one resource that business owners that we can be doing to really that we're sleeping on essentially that could really like put us on the map? Like, obviously if you're
Mhm.
podcasting, speaking, and they're like maybe something innovative that we're just not thinking of.
I think it's to instead of saying business in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
we can say business, but anytime we think about a business, we should think community,
Mm.
because I believe that I started a community without really realizing it, and in
Mm-hmm.
turn, I had the community first and then the business. So I built the community, and then I'm like, okay, how can I monetize this? How can I? So it was a little harder,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't regret that because I see a lot of business owners, like your local pizza shop, where the pizza's good, but they're not making any sales because they're missing out on an email list. They're missing out on a social media community. They're missing out on influencers that can help, or like maybe they can start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead of just looking at your business as a pizza shop, think of it as a pizza shop with a community, maybe a pizza community. And
Mm-hmm.
that could, just rewiring your brain that way can really expand your business, from, small to large, I feel.
Yeah, and I love that. Instead of viewing it as
Mhm.
a business, view it as a community. And so
Yeah.
you even mentioned of trying to monetize your community. I think a lot of the times we don't when we think of community, I think
Hmm.
naturally as community, like as business owners, we don't
Hmm.
necessarily equate it to revenue. And
Right.
I think that's something that we still need to get better on because
Hmm.
community has such a large ROI, way
It
more than
is.
people realize. And sometimes, even if you
Yeah.
don't see it right away, you'll absolutely see it later. And so, for
Right.
you, as you have built Black Girls in Media,
Hmm.
what were some strategies that you have done, number one, to build it? Because it's a very engaged, because also building community is one.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
other layer two is keeping everybody engaged. And
Hmm.
then three, monetizing it. Like right there, I feel like there's like different
Yeah.
layers to it. And so
Uh-huh.
for you, how have you kept people engaged? Have you grown it and kept people engaged? And then what were
Uh-huh.
some strategies that you have used where you like saw that led to growth
Hmm.
with your dollars as well?
Yeah, so great question. I think for one, just going back to that tidbit of community, I think
Mm-hmm,
the major thing about community is, everybody's gonna follow you.
mm-hmm,
Whatever product you release, that your community is there for you. Whatever support financially you need, your community is gonna back you, and then your
mm-hmm,
community is gonna grow as the years go by. So I feel like it's like a guaranteed revenue source, because as long as you serve that community and continue to increase it, or improve it, your
mm-hmm,
community will always be there for you. They're not going to betray you.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, that's really what I did. Just growing step by step, but then also learning and growing with my community. What
mm-hmm,
they might have wanted in 2024. That's what I've been working on, is studying to see, what products, what services we provided last year that, they didn't really hop on, which services did they love, and which services do we need to implement this year. So, just always providing value, I think, is how the community has grown, and just really putting them first, like, because something that I might want, they might not want. So I,
mm-hmm.
really, like, I keep my ear to what they're saying and what they're struggling with too, finding that solution.
Yeah, I love that. I think again,
Mhm.
that's just so important. I recorded an episode a couple weeks ago about like the power of listening and
Mhm.
how a lot of us we listen, but we listen just to respond. And so how
Yeah.
do we much more intentional with
Yeah.
our audience so that we can get a clear understanding and also to a lot of the times too, we have to be so much more intentional with listening, because when you hear somebody speak, usually they're not telling you the full reason as to why they want something. You have to go like a lot deeper to uncover the truth of what it is that they're looking for. And so I think I love that of how you have taken that time to really study like your audience through and through. And I just love with you, it's like you just kept showing up of like, this is who I am, like authentically, this is where I'm at. And people stuck with you. And I think that just goes to the show again, the power of showing up and the power of showing up authentically in who you are and not being ashamed of that. I think a lot of the times as we're growing our business, it's easy to compare and see what other people are doing. And we kind of like either edit ourselves, hold ourselves back, or play small, when essentially what you want to do is to take up that space, and the right people are going to stick with you. So when you do have your products or services that are coming out, people are riding for you no matter what. Like that loyalty is there. And so even to like now as like in 2025, what are you seeing for Black girls in media? Like what are some things that you're excited to be working on?
So I'm really excited for our events. Our in-person events are something that, because when I first started doing events, I did the brunches, the networking, not that much effort, I guess, went into that. It's just like, everybody come, I'll find a place and let's chat. And then during the pandemic, I really dug deeper and I figured out how much connection people were missing and how much motivation people were lacking. So I did the first virtual conference for us. And, I had panelists, and even the panelists were excited because they weren't working. So it's like, it just gave everybody a sense of like purpose. And I just love stuff like that. And so that gave me practice to do the first in-person conference that we did in Atlanta, 2022. And then we did the second one last year in New York. So, just, and it grows, our events grow every year. So I'm definitely looking to do the conference again this year. Haven't released the date or the place yet, but I like doing different cities to, reach everyone. So yeah, events, what else? I would say just expanding on all forms of media too, because what will Black girls in media be if myself, I wasn't in media. So I left my full-time actually last year. I was in the social space on corporate. So yeah, this year I want to expand more creatively with media. We had a podcast, Black Girls in Media, the podcast, a few years ago. So I think this year I want to bring it back. So you inspire me.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's it.
Well, that's exciting. And number one, congratulations, leaving your full-time job back into like going into full-time entrepreneurship. Like that is amazing. And I think sometimes we forget of how hard that is to do.
Oh, it's so hard. Literally. It looks glamorous, but I'm struggling.
Yes, but I'm so excited for you because it's such a beautiful journey. And like the fact that you have this amazing community that you have built, that you get to just continue to fully pour into it. And that is amazing. And even too with the conference. And it's very clear just even talking with you that like events are your gifts. And so even, and really just creating spaces for people to gather. And I truly do think that is a big gift and not everybody can do that. So even for business owners that are like, I'm looking to really grow that community. I'm looking to build my own table. What are like 3 things that they can do today to start that? Even if they want to put something small or maybe even put on a conference, whatever people's heart desire. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is set your intentions. Because, with social media, we can sometimes have an idea and we realize like once the work starts, like, I don't even really want to do it. That wasn't even really my idea. Like, just because you like knitting, you don't have to start a knitting community. You know what I mean? So just really set your intentions, make sure that this is what you really want to do. And also kind of make sure that people are asking for it before you start it. And so I think that that's key. Like once I saw people were looking to me for answers every single day, it made me realize like, okay, I can't give up. Like I have to keep showing up. So 1, set your intentions. 2, see if there is a need or a want for what you're starting. Maybe, check your content comments or ask people what they think. And so, do that research. And then 3, I would say build first, and then I really think my model worked. Build it first and then decide your revenue model, because
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of turn people off if you're just automatically like, here's my community pay. And because,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, what am I paying for? I have to believe in it first. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think those are really, really great points of like, just because you like knitting, that doesn't mean you have to create a knitting community, because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like a perfect example, because
Mm-hmm.
truly, you can easily get burnt out in community, right? Because like,
Mm-hmm.
if, especially when you like yourself are like the person who has created it and people are looking up to you,
Mm-hmm.
like it requires a lot out of you. And so
Mm-hmm.
like, it really has to be something that sparks joy. It really has to be something that
Yeah.
truly excites you, where you are able to sustain it. And
Right.
so even for you, how are you sustaining it, right? Like, how are
Yeah.
you where you're not getting burnt out, where you're still
Mm.
enjoying what you're doing, right? Like, how are
Mm-hmm.
you finding that balance between you and your needs, and then still also
Mm.
as well pouring into the community?
Well, this is a great question, because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, after the second conference last year,
Mm-hmm.
I did experience burnout. Just because of how hard throwing large events are, I kind of underestimated a lot of things, even though this is my second go round. I was a little
Mm-hmm.
hard on myself. So just mentally, physically, I was burnt out. I took I guess I didn't even realize, like a 4 month break sabbatical. And I realized I needed it because I was lacking motivation. I was
Mm-hmm.
lacking it. I just couldn't pour.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't serve my community at the time. And luckily it was like the summer, it was post conference, so I think everybody understood, thankfully. And so now I feel recharged, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's important for business owners to embrace seasons. Like, you're going to have seasons where you need rest, you're going to have seasons where you're busy, and those rest seasons make you more grateful, for the busy seasons, because now, instead of like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I'm excited for the new year. I'm like, oh my gosh, yay, like I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's like that point of like, those seasons of rest make you grateful for like when you actually are
Hmm.
working, especially like again, it just reignites that fire in you. And
Yeah.
so if you could go back, like especially within that season, what would you
Hmm.
have done differently?
Um, in the burnout season,
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think maybe start earlier. I used to consider myself a good procrastinator, because like it's like, yeah, I can procrastinate, I can wait until the last minute, but I get it done. Like, I used to take
Mm-hmm.
pride in that, and then I realized that I have to pay the cost if I move in that pace. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning to pace myself, to learn that I don't have to rush, but also just make sure you're executing. So yeah, I'm still learning, adapting new work styles, more work life balance, but then also discipline to
Mm-hmm.
get things done, because, did I need to take that many months off? Maybe not, but because I was so exhausted, I did. So I think maintaining that healthy rhythm is like key.
Yes. And I
Hmm.
mean, you did deserve, yeah, take that off.
Yeah,
Take that 4
yeah,
minutes.
yeah, yeah,
No guilt in
yeah.
that.
None,
You know
none,
what
none,
I
none.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
we deserve to rest. It's our birthright.
yeah.
Like, no shame
Hmm.
if it was 6 months, a year, whatever. Like, you
Yeah.
are, you know what I mean? Like, rest isn't earned. And I think that's just such a
Hmm.
important reminder. It's like, it's truly what our body and like what our soul and our spirit just need in order to
Hmm.
continue to do what we've been called to do. And so, and I
Hmm.
love what you said too, of just really exploring your work style, and also to really how to pace yourself, because I'm the same way. Like, that
Yeah.
pride thing that I'm also really working to deconstruct myself of like, well, I'm gonna get it done regardless. And that, if
Yeah.
that, but again, it comes at a cost, right? You're sitting,
Yeah.
sleeping till you're staying up till 6 a.m. in the
Hmm.
morning, right? And like, you're
Yeah.
crabby, you're functional, and you can't even get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Hmm.
And I think that's just such a good point of really pacing ourselves, because we do have it in our mind, like, well, I have plenty of time. It's okay. I have plenty of
Hmm.
time. It's okay. And I
Right.
know some people are like, well, I feel like I thrive procrastinating, but I'm like, yeah, at what cost? Because I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
is it truly worth it? And
It's
so I
not
love that.
sustainable.
Yes. And I love that you
Yeah.
already like are picking up on that. And I think that's just such,
Hmm.
even for me, like such a good reminder of what is the pace and the rhythm that I'm currently living in my life and business, and is it sustainable for me with the goals that I want to achieve? And so I love that. That's just so important. And so I've loved this conversation. It has been
so
just
good.
Yeah, it's so fun. And so if you, as you like, again, 2025, what is the one key thing advice that you would give to business owners?
In 2025, what advice? I think maintaining our and prioritizing our mental health.
Yes.
Yeah, because, first of all, if we're not good mentally, physically, our business is not good. So making sure that's intact. Also, when you do that and you prioritize your mental, you're able to slow down. Just like we had this interview scheduled out months in advance. It didn't have to be, oh my gosh, let's do it next week. It's everything is in divine timing, really. So I think that once we stay grounded this year and move at a healthy pace, we'll come to the end of the year realizing that, like, wow, everything came together organically, elegantly.
Yes. I love that divine timing, because I always say, like, what's for you won't pass you. And I think to your point of like, that's just such a good thing. Like, things just don't need to be a rush, because when you are rushing, it leads to you missing opportunities. It leads to you missing things that could have absolutely made your life easier and XYZ, or maybe just even ways that you just never thought of. And so I think like you just sharing that divine timing, like that's just such a good reminder of like, it's okay to slow down. And I was currently rereading this book called Homecoming. Like, I'm currently just started reading it again with Dr. Tama Bryant. And this line has stuck out to me of like, whenever, of course, we're adults and we always try to rationalize things, as we should. But she also said too, that your rational mind should not be more important than your heart, body, and spirit.
Ooh,
and
I
so
like that.
so even now, like, I have been thinking about like, yes, of course, being rational and as an adult, but I also feel like entrepreneurship, sometimes we rationalize 1000%, but sometimes some certain things you just doesn't require that. Like, sometimes it's more so your heart that's speaking louder, your body, your spirit that's screaming, yes, like, do this, but though it may not be rational, right? Like, so I think even for me, like, I just love just tying that all back in together of like that divine timing and really just listening to yourself, slowing down, going at your own pace, so that you are present with your heart, your body, your spirit, to even see if this aligns. Because when you are just kind of going everywhere, it's like you end up you may end up down a road where you're like, I didn't even want to be here. This is not what I was looking for. And so I love that. So thank you so much for sharing that. A question that we love to end with now with every episode on the Unbreakable Business, our new podcast. What does having an unbreakable business mean to you?
Ooh, an unbreakable business to me is a valuable business. Yeah, I think value will take you so much longer, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's business. When you bring value to people, it stays. And it's just worth a lot. And you can't, how relationships are valuable. You don't want to fumble. So I think, businesses that are unbreakable are valuable. They bring value to people, the community, the world, and what would ruin that,
Yes, I love that value. And I think, again, if all else fails in your business, lead with value. I think if anything, like, if you don't know where to go next, serve, and like your audience's response will tell you where you need to go. I think that's just such a perfect thing. And Tasha, I have loved this conversation. It has been so inspiring, so fun to see the work that you're doing. And I'm gonna just say this to hold it accountable, girl. Bring back that podcast.
I know, I need that. Yeah, we will.
Yes. But for those who want to connect with you, how can we support you? Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, so you all can follow my personal social media, which is Tosh J Mack with 2 Ks. So Tosh J Mack, TASH. And then you can follow Black Girls in Media everywhere at Black Girls in Media, IN Media. We're everywhere. So yes, follow us. We have some exciting things.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Tasha, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
and for
you.
Everybody. Yes, absolutely. And for everybody listening, until next time. Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable Business. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little extra inspiration. Remember, no matter what life throws your way, you have the power to keep going, and your business can be unbreakable too. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and stay unbreakable.